The Nintendo Switch 2 is on its way, and with the Nintendo Switch 2 will come a whole new generation of Nintendo games because all of those great Nintendo games we got with the Nintendo Switch, well, the slate is going to be wiped clean and there will be new entries for most of the series that we've all known and come to love from Nintendo's past. All the main franchises we love already had Switch entries, so now we get to reset our hype and be excited again for Nintendo franchises. So in today's video, I am going to be taking a look at each major Nintendo franchise and saying one thing about each one that I really want them to focus on with the Nintendo Switch 2. Because the Nintendo Switch 1 did a really good job of bringing forward and upgrading a lot of series that we've already come to know and love. But then there are some other series that honestly they didn't really either do much with or really disappointed a lot of fans of these series. So, like I said, we're going to be diving into each Nintendo franchise and it's all going to be my personal opinion. So, let me know down in the comments what you think Nintendo should do with a lot of their franchises this coming generation. If you liked today's video, definitely make sure to drop a like and subscribe, all that stuff down below. And of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos. And without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with the chosen one from Hyrule himself, Link, in the Legend of Zelda series. The Nintendo Switch actually had a decent array of Legend of Zelda games, from two big mainline ones with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, to a smaller new one with Echoes of Wisdom, to some Hyrule Warriors games, to some remakes and remasters. Lots of really good stuff with the Legend of Zelda series. But the one thing that I remember from Legend of Zelda games in the past, specifically with like Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask, is that there were some really dark, edgy, Legend of Zelda games that I really feel like I kind of missed with, the Nintendo Switch generation, because a lot of the Zelda games that we got on the Nintendo Switch had the kind of bright, airy, just kind of vibes kind of Zelda games, if you know what I mean. Like, you could sit upon the cliff tops of Hyrule, in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or appreciate the cutesy art style of Echoes of Wisdom. I want them to get dark and gritty again, something like Majora's Mask with the creepy-ass moon staring you down as it's crashing into Termina. Like, something weird like that. I missed that with the Legend of Zelda games. It made, in my opinion, Majora's Mask one of my favorite Zelda games just based on vibes alone, and I kind of hope they lean into that a little bit more again. I know some people want more traditional Zelda gameplay, which I also kind of agree with, as opposed to getting more of what Breath of the Wild did, but for me, more than that, I just want the vibes to be kind of eerie and spooky and just a little bit darker again. I like when Zelda leans into that, so I hope they do it. Kirby, another franchise that kind of got a good variety of stuff on the Nintendo Switch. It got, a 2D platformer, it got a 3D one, and overall, it just got a decent arrangement of other smaller titles with it as well. Honestly, I can't think too much of what I want them to do with Kirby, but I do have one recommendation. Try something new. Give us the same Kirby that we know and love and have seen on the Nintendo Switch for quite a while, but try something new, try something different out there, and they did do some new things on the Nintendo Switch. Like I said, 3D platformer was new for Kirby, but try another new thing. See what sticks, see what lands. The good thing about Kirby is that since it's kind of a cutesy, easy franchise, it's not really one that you have to tinker around too much with, but I would like to see them experiment with some new ideas and, see what they can do with it. Splatoon, Nintendo's answer to Call of Duty, their third-person shooter where your objective isn't to kill anyone, but it's to ink as much turf as possible. Now, honestly, I feel like they've really got the formula with Splatoon down, and I feel like more entries of the series, Splatoon 4 included, should really continue what Splatoons 1, 2, and 3 have done. But I feel like the thing they should do with Splatoon 4 is add a lot more modes. Now, I don't mean like, things that aren't the standard Splatoon gameplay, because you got the regular multiplayer, you got the campaign, you got the salmon run, like you don't really need more in that regard, but I mean in terms of the standard 4v4 gameplay, you have the turf war, you have like the tower defense kind of mode, like you have a few little modes in there, but I think you should introduce a few new ways to play, some interesting fun modes, in the standard multiplayer to give people more reason to come back. Oh, and this is a bonus one, but enough of the map rotation thing. Just let people do it Mario Kart 8 style, where you can select the map and rotate through them. Something like that. I don't know. I hate the way the map rotation thing is in Splatoon 2 and 3, but either way, like, just add more content. I think that's the main gist of it. Just to make it feel more different than the Splatoon games that we've had so far. Alright, this is going to be an interesting one because this is about the Mario sports games as a whole. This encompasses golf, tennis, strikers, and even baseball, even though we haven't had that on the Switch. I think the biggest thing that needs to be addressed with all of these, as many of you know, is they gotta stop the release it with a little bit of content and then add more later on. I don't want to use the term release an unfinished game because at the end of the day it is a finished, complete game, but you know, they are very obviously holding back content to give an artificial sense of longevity to the games, and I don't like that. Mario Strikers Battle League struggled with this the worst because obviously they held back freaking Daisy as a downloadable character, like, come on. But even Mario Tennis Aces, which was the first and obviously least offensive player in this race, still did something like holding back Blooper as a playable character, even though you could literally fight against Blooper in a boss fight in the story mode. I feel like a way to remedy this is obviously to bring back the mechanic of unlockable characters. Like, have the characters be unlocked by actually playing the game. And they kinda did this with Mario Tennis Aces, but I mean by actually playing the story mode, giving people an actual incentive to play through all the different modes, rather than just waiting for that one time a month where there would be an event where you can unlock a character. Because if you give everyone a good amount of content at launch and then supplement it with some extra stuff afterwards, then yeah, it's gonna give people a reason to return. Henceforth, like games like Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart, they were able to get away with DLC for those games because of the fact that those games had a decent amount of stuff on them at launch. The Mario sports games didn't have that luxury, so it made those additions feel like Nintendo was holding stuff back. So, I feel like just giving us all the content that you want at launch, in the base game, and then having everything be unlockable, or just having a complete game and then adding some things afterwards, like, that will work. But just, yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, Pokemon. This is a big one, right? Because Pokemon has had quite a few entries on the Nintendo Switch, and most of them have been controversial, whether it be in terms of lack of graphical fidelity and just looking rough, or just being buggy messes all around. I think the Pokemon Company really needs to take a step back and really reinvent the franchise. And what I mean by that is not changing the fundamentals of what it is, but looking at the graphical style, because obviously what they did on the Switch did not work. People did not like the graphics, people did not like how the textures look, people did not like the performance. So, if you're gonna make these styles of games, visually, how are you going to make it work? How are you going to make the game perform well? Now, if the Switch 2 is as powerful as people are saying it might be, then hey, that might not be an issue anymore. But take a step back and think about how you can make this work while keeping it to the same fundamental Pokemon that people have known and loved. And I just feel like the best way to do that is to just shake up the art style a bit. Maybe lean into the little more of the cartoony stuff and don't focus so much on the big open world stuff that they focused on before. Or if you want to focus on the open world stuff, then really focus on it. Don't release a game that obviously has graphical glitches and bugs and all these things that people are going to notice, because the more you do it, the less you're going to be able to get away with it in the future. So I really feel like Pokemon Company needs to take a step back, look at the games and say, okay, what can we do to really, make each game as polished as it should be when the game launches? And that's the most important thing, because people are talking about, the Switch being such an underpowered console and using these Pokemon games as an example, but then you look at a game like Luigi's Mansion 3 and it's like, well, that's not a fair comparison, because Luigi's Mansion 3 is like a graphical showcase on really any console. The game looks freaking great. So yeah, Pokemon Company basically just gotta get their priorities straight. Okay, this is gonna kind of be a big kind of lump of a few different games, but honestly, I want Nintendo to focus a lot on their older franchises. Star Fox, F-Zero, Wave Race, games like this I really want them to kind of bring back. I want the Nintendo Switch 2 to be the console where Nintendo's like, you know what? Let's take a few more risks. Let's bring some more franchises back. Because especially with something like Star Fox, where you don't really get many space shooters anymore. I mean, you have like, you know, like Starfield and No Man's Sky and all that, but I feel like if Nintendo made a really modernized, competent Star Fox game, or even an F-Zero game, a really fast-paced racer that's able to differentiate itself from Mario Kart, you could do a lot with your older franchises that you haven't touched in a while. Especially because of the fact that a lot of those old franchises they haven't touched, like F-Zero and like Star Fox, are not competing with any genres of whatever they already got on the, you know, Nintendo Switch 2 already. Now, obviously, you can compare F-Zero to Mario Kart, but you play those two racing games and you know they are very different. Someone who's played Mario Kart can play F-Zero and not know what the heck they're doing because they are two very different racing games. And this goes for the obscure ones too. The ones that are kind of one-offs, like Eternal Darkness, are ones that they really just kind of lost their way with, like Chibi Robo. Because honestly, some of those more experimental titles like Eternal Darkness could get horror fans interested in the Nintendo Switch, a genre that Nintendo usually doesn't really touch, or Chibi Robo, a franchise that many fans have been asking for a proper sequel to, a proper installment of for years, and we just haven't gotten it, and their answer to that was Chibi Robo Ziplash, of all things. So I feel like paying homage to those franchises, and others too, not just those two, but other franchises that they haven't touched in years, or that I feel like they haven't done justice for, bringing those back could be a great way to get people interested in your system as well. Okay. Back to regular Nintendo franchises. We got Donkey Kong. Honestly, with Donkey Kong, I think their big thing is they should make a big leap with Donkey Kong. I know a lot of people want a new Donkey Kong Country game, and I get it, right? Donkey Kong Country hasn't been around since Tropical Freeze, which is about 10 years ago now. People want a new entry, but I feel like we should get an evolution for Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Country has been the same since the 90s. I would love to see a tried and true 3D platformer for Donkey Kong. Give him like an exploration kind of game where you're exploring Kong Jungle and just doing monkey things. I'm not a big Donkey Kong fan, so like I don't know how in depth I should really explain how I think a story could be, but I think giving Donkey Kong, you know, because he's a monkey and has like all the monkey physics of swinging on vines, there's a lot that you could do in terms of platforming and all that kind of stuff that I feel like is untouched potential that I feel like Nintendo should definitely lean into with the Switch 2. Especially if they're changing up the art style of Donkey Kong, changing up how he looks. Have this be his debut game for his new look. A 3D platformer featuring Donkey Kong with his new look. I think that'd be a great way to bring in Donkey Kong to a new generation. All the Mario RPG games I'm going to lump into one. So that includes Paper Mario, Mario & Luigi, and I guess the original Super Mario RPG. Honestly, I feel like they should really evolve on what they actually did start to do with the Nintendo Switch. Because they started off with Paper Mario the Origami King, which, let's be real, wasn't a real RPG. I mean, yes, it is a good game in its own ways, but it's far from what the Mario RPG series is really known and truly loved for. Again, you can love Paper Mario the Origami King, nothing against it, but when you look at a game like The Thousand Year Door, just the fan reception to that is just, it tells a story about how Nintendo fans have wanted that kind of RPG for so long, because they haven't had it since some of the older Mario and Luigi games. So, that's where my thing comes in. Just make a new Thousand Year Door. New story, new characters, new setting, just do something big, do something grand, a grand Mario RPG. Now, yes, they did kind of do that with Mario and Luigi Brothership, but for a lot of people, that one fell short. So I feel like giving Paper Mario, especially, a new game that could really spice things up and, you know, introduce even more new characters and flip the Mario franchise as you know it on its head, doing some crazy experimental things. I know they haven't wanted to do that because of Super Paper Mario and all that, but I think it would be great to see them do it in their seemingly experimental era. Alright, we've gotten to the Green Plumber. I bet a lot of you are wondering what one thing I'm thinking for Luigi's Mansion is, because Luigi's Mansion is my favorite Nintendo franchise. It's had its ups and its downs for me. I love the first game, and then the second and third games just haven't hit the right chord with me. There's a lot of things that I would really love for them to tweak about the Luigi's Mansion series to make it something that I more so love. But if I had to choose one thing to make this series, you know, great again, make Luigi's Mansion great again, it would be to make the game spooky again. I know, you know, there's a lot of conversation about the portrait ghosts and about the common ghosts and all that, but if you give the game a spooky vibe and pay attention to the atmosphere and the ambience within the mansion itself, then things like the ghost designs, the ghost types, the portrait ghosts, that will all be fixed in according to the atmosphere and the tone that you set for the game. Giving the game dark hallways and a darker tone will obviously lend way for more darker, creepier ghosts. And when I say creepier, I mean like playfully spooky. I don't mean like legitimately scary, as all of you know, but just have to clarify that for the people who are going to yell at me in the comments. Tweaking the game's tone and its atmosphere, I feel like will subsequently address some of the other issues that I have. Now, I don't think it would fix everything. There's a lot of things about, you know, the next level games, Luigi's Mansion games, that I don't like. Mostly the backtracking, how they handle the combat with the slam mechanic and Luigi and all of that. But I feel like if you tweak just that one thing, it could make me drawn to Luigi's Mansion 4 way more than Luigi's Mansions 3 and 2, just based on visual design, atmosphere, and tone alone. So, we'll have to wait and see on that. Next up is Pikmin. Honestly, I can't think of anything for Pikmin. I'm not a Pikmin fan. I've never really played much of the Pikmin games, so I can't say much. Just make a beautiful looking game that's weird and out there and crazy and, I don't know, just new Pikmin game. I literally have nothing to say on it. Just keep it going, I guess. Metroid. This one's an interesting one, because Metroid is a series that I've never really gotten into. I mean, I've liked the Metroid games, I've played a decent amount of them, albeit not to completion, but something I would love to see Metroid dive a little more into. Not saying that it's not ever been this way, but I kind of want it to go for a sci-fi horror vibe at some point. Now, here, bear with me, because Metroid, especially Metroid Prime, but other Metroid games as well, has always leaned a little bit into sci-fi horror, right? You know, it's leaned into the atmosphere of Samus being alone on a planet, trying to explore it on her own, and of course, you know, Samus trying to complete the story of whatever game, you know, she's in, you know, whatever. But I would love, almost like how in Metroid Dread, there were those robots that would be sneaking around and trying to kill you from the ceilings. I would love, just in a Metroid game, an active threat that's always on the map and is trying to scare you. Think of something, the best thing I can compare it to is something like Lethal Company, where when you're in Lethal Company, you're wandering around the halls and there's always something after you. You have to always be careful and look around and all that. I want something like that, where you never feel safe, where you can be running around the world, but there's always something watching you, there's always something after you. I would love that. Maybe there is a Metroid game like that I just personally haven't played, but I would love a Metroid game where you never feel safe. No matter if you completed that part of the map, no matter what section of the map you're in, you never feel safe, because there could always be something there to attack you. I would love that for a Metroid game. Maybe Metroid fans would disagree though. Alright, let's talk about Wario. Wario actually got a decent amount of love on the Nintendo Switch with 2 new WarioWare games, and honestly, I do want to see them do another WarioWare game. I want them to kind of blend what they did with WarioWare Get It Together and WarioWare Move It, where it's like a traditional WarioWare game like Move It was, but don't rely on the motion controls. I wanted to play Move It, but the motion controls I just couldn't care for at this point. It's so 2007, I don't care about it anymore. But I would love to see a new Wario Land game of some sort, but more importantly than Wario Land, I want to see another Wario World. Alright, we already have enough 2D platformers in my opinion, and I get it, Wario Land has been gone for a while and many people want it to return, but honestly, with Donkey Kong Country and Yoshi and Kirby and 2D Mario, like, I get it. We got 2D platformers out the wazoo. Give Wario World another game, another 3D puzzly platformery, beady-uppy kind of game that had the same kind of weird vibe that Wario World had. I don't know. I feel like that'd be a better direction for Wario, again, just because of the overabundance of 2D platformers that Nintendo just kind of has right now. I would feel like giving Wario something a little more unique, and not saying that a 3D platformer is the most unique concept, but comparatively to the 2D ones, it would be a welcome, warm addition as opposed to something 2D. But I get it, Wario Land has been, away for a while. Who knows? Give us both. Give us a Wario Land and a Wario World. That'd make all the fans happy. But me personally, I don't really care about getting another Wario Land game. I would just like another Wario World game. Super Smash Brothers! Now, this is going to be a hot take because everyone's wondering what they're going to do for Smash Brothers next, right? Because of the fact that we don't know what they're going to do after Ultimate. Are they going to evolve on Ultimate and make it even bigger? Or are they going to do a soft reboot and completely reset and change some things up? Personally, what I want them to do, I want them to shake some things up. I know Ultimate was great, almost 100 characters, over 100 stages I'm pretty certain, and just so much content. I get it. But, especially because the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, getting something that shakes things up a little bit and tries some new things while staying respectful to what Smash Brothers is, I think would be a great way to continue the Smash, the Smash name while also giving it a reboot. If you want that big Ultimate experience, well, you can still have that on the Switch 2 with Smash Brothers Ultimate. But with a new Smash Brothers game on, the system, you can still play the old one, having this new one that tries some new things, maybe shakes some things up a little bit, refreshes the roster, it'll probably downsize a little bit, which people will find disappointing, but if it offers an interesting gameplay loop, keeps it the same as tradition, but tries some new things, maybe shakes up the art style, maybe tries some new things, like I said, it could be a really good time, and people might love it. Don't automatically write it off because of the fact that they cut Banjo-Kazooie and Sora. Give it a new shot because maybe they'll try and add some new Nintendo characters that weren't there before, or maybe they're going to try something even more to make it a bigger homage to Nintendo. You guys never know. I'm all for an idea of a rebooted, refreshed Smash Brothers, and I hope you guys will warm up to that idea too. Animal Crossing. Personally, I've got no leg in this race. I've never really cared that much about Animal Crossing, but what I will say is I do know that Animal Crossing fans were actually quite disappointed in New Horizons from what I've heard, just mostly because of a lot of stuff being taken away from, New Leaf to New Horizons, and honestly, I think the best move would just to be like, have New Horizons, but bigger and better. I'm not saying make a deluxe version of the game. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, keep everything that New Horizons has, but bring back a lot of the stuff that people missed from New Leaf, and just make a new Animal Crossing game that has everything. Has all the stuff that was cut from New Leaf, has all the stuff that was introduced in New Horizons, and just make the biggest and best Animal Crossing game. Because I feel like Animal Crossing fans, I would feel like, are the easiest to please because New Leaf was so good for them. All you have to do is do it again just to add a little more, stuff to it. Make it a little more fresh while having everything that they loved before from New Leaf. Like, Animal Crossing fans are really simple to please from what I've seen from the community. So, I think just giving them the biggest Animal Crossing game and not taking things away is just the best move. Keep it as it is because they love it. Just give them back what you took away. That's really all I think they're asking for here. This is going to be an interesting talking point because of the fact that I actually don't see this, I don't have this mindset that a lot of people do about the Mii games, specifically games like Wii/Nintendo Switch Sports and Tomodachi Life and all that jazz. Personally, I could not care about the Miis. I know a lot of people say, oh, but they're so expressive, they're so creative. I guess you can make them look all weird and stuff, which is cool, but I don't know. I never saw the appeal of them, and I grew up with the Wii. I'm somewhat nostalgic for it. I more so grew up with the GameCube, but I also grew up with the Wii, kind of. I get the hype, I guess, of the nostalgia of the Miis and all of that, but at the same time, they're Miis. The whole thing about them is that they were for the Wii, and we're 3 generations removed from the Wii now. It's been over, 13 years since the Wii U, the system after the Wii, has launched, and approaching 10 years since the Switch. We gotta move on from Miis, in my personal opinion, at some point. However, I would like to see Tomodachi Life return. Now, I think they could just make their own custom character maker for, or if the people want the Miis, then just rebrand them. Rebrand them as something else, because just having that Wii label still around, I just feel like is a little messy. But that's just my personal opinion. But I'm not saying don't have Switch Sports, don't have Tomodachi Life. I'm just saying that the Mii branding, I just feel like we gotta step away from it at this point. And I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me on that. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion on it. Alright, we're on kind of the big three now, honestly. Mario Kart. Now, we did get to see a look at the new Mario Kart, and, you know, we know that a lot of the characters are being redesigned. It looks like it's going to be a bigger Mario Kart game with 24 racers, just a bigger scope in general. Honestly, with Mario Kart, I just wanted to feel a little bit different from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because like I said with Smash Brothers, you know, we already got 8 Deluxe that we will be able to play on the Switch too. So if we want that more traditional Mario Kart feel, you know, that classic Mario Kart action, we got 8 Deluxe and the Booster Course Pass. Like, we got all of that. There's a lot of content there of classic Mario Kart gameplay. I think they can take some risks and try some new stuff. I'm not saying flip the formula on its head, but throw in some wacky ideas to make the races feel different. Throw in a crazy story mode or something. Throw in a wild, different idea for the battle mode. Throw in all this crazy stuff. See what sticks. Try new stuff. And I feel like Nintendo are probably going to do that, you know, given what we saw from the new Mario Kart. I'm just really hoping that they stick the landing with it, and I'm really interested to see what they end up doing. Next up is Mario Party. Now, here's the funny thing. If you had asked me this about a year ago, before Jamboree even got announced, I would have had a bucket list of things to recommend, to say, hey, Nintendo, this is what you need to do for Mario Party. And honestly, with the release of Jamboree, that list got narrowed down to one thing. One main core thing. Of course, I have little things I'd like to see improve with Mario Party, but one core thing they need to change with the game. The game is too slow now. They have all these cool animations and all this stuff going on, which I get it, makes the game look pretty, and I even said how much I love it, and I do, but 90 minutes for 10 turns is kind of crazy. And I feel like there needs to be either faster board speed, you can choose to get rid of the allies, because the allies in Jamboree I actually don't mind. I hated them in Super Mario Party, but in Jamboree I actually don't mind them. But making them optional would do a great deal to help, you know, customize how fast you want your board gameplay to be. I mean, I could just boil this all down to having you have custom rules and be able to customize more, but I feel like more importantly than that is actually making the game fast-paced, crazy action, because it's still crazy, just not as fast-paced. And it's not a big issue to me. I'm not, like, that offended by the speed in Mario Party Jamboree, but I would like it to feel more snappy, to be a little more fast-paced, so you could do 30 turns in, like, 2 hours as opposed to, like, 4 to 5 hours. You know, like it's that's crazy to me. Alright, lastly, 3D Mario. What can Nintendo do with 3D Mario? Honestly, my biggest thing for them, because this is my biggest complaint of Odyssey, I feel like the problem I had with Odyssey is that the base game, the required moons you had to get to complete the game, made the game too short, and it relied on you going back to each world to collect the optional moons, which I personally found mundane, tedious, and boring. I had no care to go back to the worlds to collect the extra moons. I could not care less about that. Now, I'm not saying they need to design a game that's fun to 100%. I'm not saying that. I never, like, really focus that much on 100%ing all my games. But what I am saying is I beat Mario Odyssey in about 10 hours, which for a 3D Mario game, to me, is a little short. I want a little more out of, especially if you have a mechanic like capturing enemies and characters. I want there to be more to do with it. And I don't know, I just really hope that this next Mario game focuses more on making each moon slash star slash shine sprite, whatever you collect, making each one feel like its own mission, kind of like the older games, kind of like 64, Sunshine and Galaxy, and just making it feel just more like each world has something to offer than just, okay, collect these few moons to proceed, and you can come back here to do some tedious tasks for the citizens to get more. Like, have some optional stars, of course, whatever, but have the core fundamental exploration of the world be what gets you the primary, you know, like, majority of the stars within the world, if that makes sense. I feel like focusing on that and giving each world a little bit more to do would make, you know, the game last a little bit longer while not making it feel like it's like there's a lot of padding and all of that. Just give us a great 3D Mario game. Odyssey is great, it really is, but I feel like it lacked a lot of the depth in each star, well, moon, that some of the previous games had, and I really hope that they kind of bring it back to that in the next 3D Mario. So there you have it, guys. That is my thought on most of the major Nintendo franchises. I'm sure I've missed a couple. I'm not perfect. I actually literally last second remembered about Pikmin and probably threw it in somewhere early in the video because I literally forgot about Pikmin, that it existed. So I've probably forgotten some other Nintendo franchises, but what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments down below. I would truly appreciate to hear what you have to say. And thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff down below. Click on the notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos. And until next time, you guys, I'll see you all in the next video.